Good evening and welcome back to my channel. I want to talk a little bit this evening about what I'm using for en plein air painting at the moment. Now, those of you who've interacted with me at all know I love to have lots of colours. My studio palettes sort of look like this, and I have 4 of these palettes at the moment, all with Winsor & Newton professional watercolours in them, because I like to have a lot of colours. I like to have a lot of choice and a lot of choice of different effects. Some time ago, I whittled this down to a small set of what I would call essential colours for me, and you can download this in, excuse the camera work, selfie stick is not easy to manipulate. You can download a sheet with all of these on it in the download section of my website. And I work with a split primary system that's a little bit different from what a lot of people are used to. I actually do a 4-way split. So, for example, with the yellows here, let me just get something to point with, as well as a lemon yellow, a cool yellow, the cad yellow as a warm yellow. I also like to have an earth yellow, namely yellow ochre, and a dark yellow, namely raw umber. Within my reds, permanent rose is my cool, cad red is my warm, Indian red is my earth, although I could use brown madder, Venetian red, light red, and my dark is permanent alizarin crimson, though I could equally be using caput mortuum, for example. Now, I want to modify this slightly, again, because I included the neutrals, the yellows, the reds, the blues, and the greens when I put this together, and I kind of had this column of other colours I enjoy. I think I would now have a set of purples, so I would probably have my cool purple would probably be ultramarine violet. My warm purple would probably be cobalt violet. My earth purple would probably be potter's pink, and my dark would be dioxazine violet. So that's how I would probably want to have my colours as a sort of minimum set that I would ever need. I thought long and hard about how to achieve this, and what I was going to do was buy several or 1 or 2 cheap Cotman sets to get the box, and then buy individual half pans, because I like the Cotman boxes, they're very robust, and buy half pans of the professional colours, swap them in, and have my sort of 4, 8, 12, 24 colour set that would paint anything. And that's what I wanted to do, use my good colours. Once I priced that up, I realised that was going to be really expensive to do, because even using the colours that I already have, that's actually pretty expensive to do. Filling up all those half pans is actually a lot of paint, and in some cases I would need to buy more paint. I wasn't intending to buy Winsor & Newton filled pans. I was going to fill them from tubes I already had. But once I weighed up how much paint you need to fill the tube to fill the pans, it became really quite expensive. So I had to have a rethink, and I really thought about this, and I realised what I need is something small that I can carry around all the time, because I'm not going to paint masterpieces or anything I want to sell in the field. All I'm going to be doing is sketching, so I just need a small set of colours for sketching. So I thought, well, I'll just get a little Cotman set, which I bought from Amazon. No, sorry, I bought this in Hobbycraft in the sale. It was £8 and it should be about 17. And these are all still in the wrappers because I bought another set, which you'll see in a moment. And what I did is I swapped the ones that were already open from here with the ones from there, so I didn't have loads open that I didn't need to be open. So what you get in this set is a little retractable fake sable brush, which is actually a really nice little round. You get a fairly standard split primary palette. You get a lemon yellow, cad red, alizarin crimson, what they call intense blue, which is phthalo blue, ultramarine, viridian, sap green, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, burnt umber, and the dreaded Chinese white, the colour that we all put in the bin because it's completely useless when you're painting anything, not least in the field. So that was immediately a wasted space. Needless to say, at the price, these are student colours. These are mostly hues, so this is not really cadmium red. The problem here is with it not really being cadmium red, this stains. Real cadmium red doesn't. You can lift real cadmium red. So Some of these I would want to replace with the real thing just because the hues don't behave in a realistic way, but the Viridian hue is not too bad. Anyway, I use Cotman for practicing techniques with. I use it for sort of playing with and for teaching purposes and showing people techniques. I really like this little set, so what I decided to do was to have this little set in my work bag with a small sketchbook and have it for if I see a beautiful sunset, I can capture it. So just carry it around with me and use it in that way. I wanted something bigger and better, and I was looking at the 24 sets, and I was going to put my professional colours in again. And what I ended up doing was compromising, and the reason I compromised, and I'm going to link to this below, I found a really good price for a 45 half-pan Cotman set that should be about £60 on Amazon for £28. It's an absolute bargain. That's this set here. It's the Cotman Studio set, and I should state this is the UK version. The US version has got some different paints, and it's got whole pans rather than half pans, so you actually get less in it. When you open it up, you've got 4 big mixing areas here. You've also got this lid that overfolds here, and then you've got a series of 8 little mixing areas here, and they're really nice. And then you have 45 half pans in the middle. Now, I've removed some of them. The reason I've removed them is that they're duplicates, so you don't actually get 45 colours. So colours like alizarin crimson you get 2 of. So I've removed one of them because it gives me back space. So I've got some spares, and that's all fine. What I've done is arrange them in the order I like to have my paints in, not the order that Winsor and Newton wanted me to kind of have the paints in. And I'm probably going to remove these ones here, which are Chinese white, lamp black, ivory black, and Payne's grey, because they're totally useless to me. So they will come out. I've done another little video, a quick tip, because some of these, when I got them, the actual extruded paint, I'm trying to find one where I haven't already mended it. Here's one. The actual block of extruded paint falls out of the half pan, which is really annoying when you're in the field. So I did various things to, I suppose, remedy this set being designed as a studio set and not having really tight grip. So I've come up with a few things to do, and I've done another video on how to glue these in using gum arabic so that they stay put, and I can assure you the ones I've done that with have indeed worked. I've just tested them. So you get a good range of colours here. You get lemon yellow gambos, cad yellow pale, cad yellow, cad orange, then you get cad red pale, cad red deep, alizarin crimson, and so on. I won't bother going through all the colours, but I did make myself a little colour chart on a piece of hot press Langton Prestige just so that I've got it. And I did this with a Prolene Plus filbert, and what I did is I put some acrylic flow enhancer in some water, which is just a detergent. It helps the paints wet really easily, and I just used that to just do 3 swipes across the paint, and then I wiped it on here. So it gives you an idea of how well they lift as well, because these ones that lift really well have got a high pigment load when you lift them, so you can see. Now I've added to it and made some changes, and these things along the bottom are just some mixes that I use a lot, just so that I could see how they look compared to when I use professional colours. When I made this, I stuck it onto a sheet of fun foam on the back, so that when it's on here, it pads and protects the surface of the paint, so that they don't stick to the back of the paper, they can't stick to foam, and it protects them in transit. I thought that was very important. What this means is I will have to, in transit, remove this tray, because I don't need that. And when I've taken it out, the lid fits really well with that foam pad in place, and then I can carry that elastic banded to the back, and that's not a big deal. I can put it on when I need it, and that's a small price to pay for keeping my paint safe in transit. So I've got a colour chart that doubles as a sheet of padding. Paints have got a habit of moving around a little bit when in transit and sliding into these gaps, even though there are little wedges that stop them moving. They do move sometimes, so you have to be a little bit careful. I'm going to pad these with sponge that I'll show you in a minute, and what I'm going to do is, this is kind of a part 1 video. Part 2 video will be the completed set and how I'm actually going to use it ready for use. This is kind of what I'm going to do to convert it. I've made some additions. This over here, you can see it doesn't fit because the half pan is slightly too big. This is concentrated ox gall from Schminke. Schminke are a German company that make beautiful watercolour paints, and they make a concentrated ox gall for use outdoors in your travel palette. You can get it on Amazon, again I'll link. It's about £5, but it lasts a very long time. It smells beautifully of lavender oil, which they add as a preservative, and is really very useful. I will be doing a separate video on ox gall and other mediums so that one can see them. But what ox gall is, for those who don't know, it's concentrated bile from a cow basically. And what bile is a series of detergents effectively that emulsify fats from one's diet and help the body to digest them. So ox gall is effectively soap. It's a gentle type of soap, and by using that mixed with paints, one can get lovely smooth effects and make a lot of differences to the way one is painting. I've also added a couple of extra half pans. Here I've added opera rose because I like to paint botanicals and I find opera rose very useful, and I've added green gold because it's a colour I love. I will be adding down here Naples yellow and probably titanium buff, but I have to buy that from Daniel Smith because Winsor & Newton don't make titanium buff in their watercolour range. Doesn't come with a brush, so I've supplied my own. This is a size 000 Squirrel mop from Pro-Arte, and I can't get the packaging off of it at the moment, which is why I've left it on. I'll show you the slightly larger size that I use in the studio. This is a size 2 zeros, and these are about £10. The one that I bought for this set is a little cheaper. What I love with a mop is that you've got a lovely point, but you've also got something that can soak up a lot of colour and fill a large area. So it's a really good all-round brush when one is in the field. A Squirrel mop, and I hate to say it, but genuine Squirrel does work a lot better. These really are a good all-rounder. You can do a fine point or you can fill a large area very quickly. And as they hold a lot of paint, that does save one time when one is in the field. So that's my actual paints. How am I going to kind of accessorize this for the field? Well, I said I was going to fill some of those gaps with foam, and that's absolutely what I'm going to do. I have found a suitable foam, which is, these are cleansing facial sponges from Sainsbury's, the supermarket chain in the UK. 90p, so I don't know what that is in dollars, given after the Brexit announcement the pound has plummeted. I have no idea what the exchange rates are anymore, but these reminded me a lot of the type of sponge that one uses when soldering. It's very similar to soldering sponge. So what I'm going to do is cut these into strips that will fit into those gaps in the palette, and then I've got them as a sponge that I can use when I'm painting because they give a lovely texture, and I'll probably keep the other one in the studio. I do have a whole array of sponges because I often buy bags of makeup sponges from the pound shop, because you can get 30 or 40 different types of sponges, different types of wedges, different types of synthetic sponge, very cheap, and it's nice to have a range as well as having natural sponges. They're very important. The other things I bought were a couple of these bottles, which are 100ml bottles. They are flip top, so you could drip water onto the entire palette should one wish, but the neck is big enough to fit that brush into, so I could use these to rinse. I bought 2 of them. The idea is one for clean water, one for dirty water. Simple enough. And I have already got a number of mini misters, like this Derwent mini mister here. I find these useful just to wet the palette before one starts, and I'm going to give you a tip. I found the use of acrylic flow enhancer really helps with wetting, especially of student paints. I'm going to do a separate video showing the actual reality of it, but the tip is you use it at a concentration of 1% in the water in here. So you'd have to measure the volume of the water in here. If it was 30ml, you'd be wanting to add 0.3ml of flow enhancer. And the acrylic flow enhancer that I use is one by Daler and Rowney. This is what it looks like. It lasts ages, and all it is a mild detergent. It's kind of like ox gall, but it's cheaper, and because it's a synthetic, it doesn't go off as easily. So you'll either need a medication syringe to measure such small amounts, or a graduated pipette like this one. And this one's graduated every half milliliter, so you could easily eyeball 0.3 milliliters, and you add that in. It's important to add the water to the mini mister first, then the detergent. If you do it the other way around, it's hard to make it dissolve without it foaming a lot, so I strongly advise that that is the approach that you use. So my kit so far is bottles of water, mini mister, my paints, my brush, my sponges, and I've obviously got my ox gall in the set. In terms of paper, I will cover that next time because I've got a few different types of sketch pads. And what I'm also going to be setting up is a little box to take with me, which is in a little Derwent pencil tin that I no longer use. And I think I can probably reach it from here. Yeah, here it is. It's a Derwent Academy sketching pencils tin. It's nothing special. It had 6 pencils in it. I buy any old pencils because I buy them in the sales when they're cheap, so it doesn't really matter what they are. I'll take out the plastic packaging thing inside that holds the pencils in place, and what I intend to put in here are some Inktense blocks because I think they're very useful for sketching in the field, and probably a water brush, and I've got the fine water brush from Pentel. Again, I will link to that. They come in a pack of 3, medium, large and fine, and I think these are really nice. The fine one is fantastic. You can really use this with as much precision as one would ever need in watercolour painting. The larger ones I tend to fill with ink or dye or mixtures of inks because you can get nice effects with them, and they're pretty economical. These are £3 or £4 each. You can get them cheap in the sale. When I bought these, packs of 3 are supposed to be about £15 and they were half price at the time, so it was okay to buy a few packs and essentially treat them as kind of not really disposable, but not necessarily something where you'd want to wash them out and refill them. Keep them as something that you just use over and over. Another item I'm going to have in there is another brush. This is a cheap graduate from De La Romani. That's Simply Simmons in the USA. It's a 1/2 inch synthetic flat wash. So it's got a flat edge like this, very springy. Why do I need that, I hear you ask? Well, the answer is simple. One's pans can get contaminated very easily in the field, and all one needs to do is take one of these wet and scrape across the surface of the pan immediately after painting, and it's possible to remove that contamination very easily and much more quickly than one could with a soft brush like a sable or a squirrel, and it's just so much easier to have a separate brush for cleaning those kinds of things. I'll probably have some cocktail picks because they can be useful for effects, and probably a wax crayon for wax resist because Lindsay the Frugal Crafter did a travel set the other day and she'd put one in, and I thought actually that's a really cool idea. I'm going to do that. There may be a container of salt, there may be a few other accessories. I might possibly take some gum arabic with me for doing gum arabic resist, just a tiny vial of it, but probably nothing else. Perhaps a few pencils, probably a waterproof pen of some kind. Just seeing if I can see one. Yeah, there's one. A Sakura pen probably is going to go in there. Something like the Sakura Micron, which is an archival quality ink. Just a black pen, and I've got size 8 here, which delivers a line of 0.5mm, and they're really nice pens. They can be really good for labelling sketches with, so that's what I intend to kind of use it for and do with it. So when I come on next time and show you the part 2 video, what I'll be showing you is my completed en plein air kit with paper and everything, how I pack it, what I do with it, and then I'll probably do a part 3 where I show you some of my sketches and my paintings that I've done with it. Thank you very much, and I hope you all have a good evening.